Hi, and welcome to Praxis Makes Perfect, episode 2.
I'm Raul.
And I'm Amy, and today we'll be going over some Praxis with you guys.
Yes. So today's big episode, I think we're gonna concentrate on how to judge a candidate.
So the first question we have is, how is judging a candidate Praxis in the first place? We did a couple of polls with you guys online on our Facebook group, and we saw that two things stood out. One, that everyone wanted to talk about specifically political praxis, and two, that a majority of those that interacted, they vote for various reasons. For various reasons, people vote.
Yes.
And I did some research, and it found that one of the reasons why people our age and younger, me being in my early 30s, and younger, are hesitant to go to the polls because they don't necessarily know who their candidates are, or they don't have time to do research. So we have some tips today on how to judge a candidate. Because if you're going to be voting, you might as well know who you're voting for, right?
Yes. And we're talking this information can be applied to both local elections and federal elections. However, I think we're probably going to concentrate more on the local aspect of this information.
Yeah, specifically because I guess you and I believe, but we like to think that the group believes that we can we can affect things locally a lot quicker than we can affect things nationally, only because there's not that much competition, guys. I mean, it's people that have been sitting in the same position. What I've researched is that our biggest obstacle is what would be considered a good old boy network. But there are ways to get around that. So, Today we're going to be going over the first way, which is how to judge a candidate.
And just as a side note, I do believe that we have time to look this stuff up. Like, if you have time to look at a YouTube video, like you're doing right now, you definitely have the time to go out there and look up the information on these specific candidates that are running in your local district.
Yeah, true. If you're watching this right now, then you have easy access to information.
But anyway, that's beside the point.
So let's talk about where our sources came from.
Yes, and always want to look at your sources. Our source today comes from the League of Women Voters Education Fund. We just a little bit more background on that. That's funded by a few groups. However, the two big ones I think we can both, as in the audience and us, come to our own conclusions are the Ford Foundation and the Carnegie Foundation. Now, take that information and research that on your own and get back to us and let us know what you think of the fact that's being, well, those two big organizations are funding this kind of information.
But the reason why we tell you this is because the research that we are reading over here, the sources that we're pulling this from, as we're reading through it, we are noticing certain terminology, certain language that would seem to kind of tell the normal working class voter like you and me that we're not quite fit to run.
Yes.
So you should probably look towards someone else.
So we're gonna give it our
interpretation of what it really should mean.
Right? All right. So we're going to start with step 1. Decide what you're looking for in a candidate. Candidates can be judged in two ways. The positions they take on issues and the leadership qualities and experience they would bring into office. And I think those are two very good, important points. We're going to take a pause there. And the experience bit, I think we can...
They mean political experience. That's what they
mean.
How long have you already been sitting on this board, pretty much? How long have you already been in this position? So we decided that it's time to start interpreting that in a new way, which we took it from, instead of just leadership qualities, yes, leadership qualities are important, but more importantly, how
What?
active is this person in
Yes.
their
How
community?
involved are you in the community itself? Like, experience goes a long way, but like people like that are starting to get their leg in the door of politics. I think it's necessary, not necessary, but this idea that experience is necessary can we can pretty much get rid of this idea when it comes to running for office. When it's only people that are running, um, when the only people that are running are coming from backgrounds that are not working class. So if that's the only experience that they want, then I can say for sure that none of us have that. So we're not gonna talk about that kind of experience here. What we're more worried about is the involvement in the community that the candidate has. What kind of impact does the candidate have within that community? And again, we're talking about locally. We can have our own opinions about federal elections, but right now I think we can concentrate on the local.
Now, when it comes to how active are they in the community, for example, I guess canvassers. Have you seen them actually going around knocking on doors? That's a big one for me. I remember as canvassing once that I actually ran into somebody that said that they didn't really think about who they were voting for, but they were surprised that somebody actually knocked on their door. And we had a very nice conversation about it. And he seemed to want to lean towards uh, my candidate more just because I took the time to actually sit out and talk to them. So look at things that are going on in your community. Do you have certain centers where, let's say that art centers or any sort of local activities that people
Yes,
pretty much come out for?
like
Festivals, fairs, how active are they?
being
That's what we're
involved in the
looking at.
community, volunteering for certain events within the community. The Parks and Recreation takes a lot of volunteers from within the community,
Hmm.
and I I certainly would want to vote for people that are kind of building a relationship within the community that's just beyond you know writing a check for this specific thing.
Yeah, or sitting on a board. I hate that that's a qualification for a lot of people. Is they're looking for people who have sat on different boards for various businesses, pretty much.
Which can be important if we're talking about running a private company and we're talking about making dividends and making money. But we're talking about running a community here. We're talking about engaging in a way that's going to benefit everyone.
Hmm. So that would move us on to step two, which is find out about the candidates.
Yes.
There are actually many easy ways to do that, which would, I mean, you can access it from your phone, from any sort of computer. You can go to USA.gov, and that will give you a federal list, but it also gives you access to states, which can even break it down into counties, which will give you your local list of candidates. So, I mean, if you're going to decide what you're looking for in a candidate, uh, that's what's going that's what's going to lead you into finding out about the candidates that are
Yes.
running.
The state.gov site are usually pretty good indicators or pretty good avenues of going of researching who those candidates are within your counties. For those of you that live in county. Um, Also, look into the sample ballot mailed to you from your county election office. Newspapers are another great source of information.
Yeah, so you can actually call your local county election office or just your local election office, and they can send you, if you have an upcoming election, they can send you a sample ballot, which I actually didn't know about.
Yes, and those are very helpful for those of you that have never been to an election before and have no idea what they even look like.
Mhm.
Ballots, that is. Right. We go to step 3 now, which is gather materials about the candidates. All right. So we can gather information about the candidates. We can collect any information that you find on the candidates, whether it's online, through newspaper articles. And I realize not a lot of people read newspaper articles now, but they are still available online. You can call their campaign headquarters and even watch some of the local press to see what they're talking about. Sources of information from which you may choose do include a lot, such as campaign literature, which should be readily available from their campaign headquarters. They do have websites as well, campaign websites.
There's radio and television ads, but I prefer stuff that's not really paid for. Most of the stuff that you can access when it comes to candidates is going to be directly from their sites.
Yes. However, I also think it's important to look at what the paid advertisements are saying. You want to get an overall picture of what these candidates are saying. So yes, we don't want to get we want to get an unbiased opinion of what this candidate is, but also I think it's important to see what these people are putting out.
Yeah, and it's important. I like viewing speeches if you get a chance. If you have local people running, depending on how small the area is, I don't remember any of our candidates talking about giving speeches anywhere about anything.
And debates.
Yeah, you can debate these people. It wouldn't. I would enjoy seeing that.
I know debates have kind of devolved into this kind of almost primal way of
hashing out issues,
talking about indifferences. But I think in a true debate, the adherence to certain principles is present, and those principles are first and foremost the ability to agree on what the facts are, right? Because we can all have differing opinions on various subjects. However, we cannot have our own facts.
Yeah. Well, any sort of person that does any research that understands how to research and understands the difference between a fact and an opinion. And you know what? It actually goes into detail about this, about how you should. A lot of people have fallen into this routine where instead of getting facts, they're pulling from op-eds.
Yes.
Which are opinions and editorials. Which an opinion is not always a fact. I mean, you can have opinions based on facts.
It's an opinion.
Yeah, it's an opinion. That's the thing. That's why it's called opinion and editorial.
Yes.
But a lot of us are relying on that, or a lot of people, I want to say us in particular, because I do see a lot of people, post links to things that, this is obviously an opinion piece, so of course it's going to sway one direction or another. But the best thing to do is see if you can just catch them and talk to them about it. A lot of these people are local. They should have businesses. And you can, challenge them to debates. Just depending on what your issues are. But once you know what your issues are, it would be easy to go on to the next one, which is evaluate where the candidate stands on those issues.
Yeah, sure, which I think is one of the bigger steps.
Yeah, we were talking about a candidate report card. So when you think about it, people can have a list of issues that they deal with. Let's say on a local level, my biggest issues are, of course, living wage. Living wage is a big one for me here. Healthcare is a big one, but I'm not sure if there's anything I can do much on a local level, but I do have some ideas to help those that live in poverty, such as using public land to create co-ops and such. So yes, you can change things on a local level, which is great. That's why we need to get more working class, specifically more working class leftists into local politics. If you can sit on your town council, then You've now given us a say in what Town does. So when you're looking at that and you're thinking about a report card, you're thinking of your issues, ideas that you want for your community, uh, certain goals that you want for your community, and then you want to look through your candidates and evaluate and see if any of those on a scale of A through B, or sorry, A through F.
No, I think that's appropriate. Depending on what the issue is, I'm not saying everything is black and white, but they either stand with you on the issue or they don't. I mean, not every issue is that black and white, especially when it comes to local elections. But for me, I'm not the kind of person that's willing to compromise when it comes to principles.
Yeah, so once you're hitting, I mean, of course, you could still have the grading system. One of the things I think about, and it reminds me of one of these psychological grading scales where you say something is, you strongly agree or you strongly disagree with it. And you can actually use that grading system as a 1 through 5. And then you add up the number, and the candidate with, the highest number is the candidate that aligns with your values the most.
Yes, I think that's a very good metric. And you can come up with your own metric as well. There are various issues that we're all passionate about, and not everyone's going to be passionate about the same thing. However, all of these leaders,
or all of these people are considered leaders,
can be considered leaders. Yes, which brings us to step 5. Learn about the candidate's leadership abilities. And I think, first and foremost, before we go further, I think one of the biggest things a leader should have is the ability to empathize. Empathy. A leader should have empathy. So deciding if a candidate will be a good leader is difficult. How can you know if someone will be honest, open, or able to act under pressure if elected to office? I think there are a lot of ways that we can tell.
Well, yeah, one of the best things to do is look at a candidate's background.
Yes.
A good thing to do with that is you can look back at their voting record. You could see who they voted for or what policies they voted for, which would definitely affect.
Yes, for those incumbents,
especially that grading system.
For those incumbents that are still.
And observe who they associate themselves with, who the campaign associates themselves with. We talk about certain endorsements. Well, even local candidates can get endorsed.
Yes, and again, if you're voting for incumbents, you want to observe the candidate's campaign. Do they accept speaking engagements before different groups, even those groups that might not be all too sympathetic? Do they accept invitations to debate? Do the campaigns emphasize media events where the candidates can be seen but not heard? Who's hosting these events?
Exactly. Is it hosted by a business or is it hosted by a nonprofit group? That's two very different things, especially when it comes to a working class candidate. Who's more likely to have more business-friendly policy in line versus community-friendly policy in line? Speaking of your community, step 6 goes into learn what other people's views on the candidate are.
Yes.
Yeah, as tough as that can be, you have to talk to other people about
because
it.
Again, we all have our we're all passionate about very different things, and we have our own opinions about those very passionate things. And not every candidate is going to have everyone's ear. But I think as people that are trying to advance a more empathetic view of the world, I think it is very necessary to listen to what other people are saying about our candidates, about the candidates that we are advocating for.
Mm-hmm.
and why they're saying that.
Yeah, so you want to have this, you have this information now, so you're looking at, the last thing you want to look at is how other people view the candidate. And that means going out and speaking in your community. Even
Yes.
something as simple as talking to your coworkers about it.
Yeah.
Some of them might not even know.
Try to interview. I thought this was a very good idea. Try to interview 3 people, and I know interview sounds like a very like intrusive way of speaking to someone, but I think interview by having a casual conversation, right? What do you think of so and so running in the local elections this year? You can ask a shopkeeper. When you go to the barber shop, you speak to the local barber about what your local elections, when your local elections are, or if they even know when your local elections are.
Find out if they have any certain long-standing party loyalty.
Yes. Or if they even belong to a party.
And especially learn about their endorsements. I mean, and that's just something that you learn by talking to other people. A lot of them you can actually request who they're getting donations from. Of course, you always want to follow the money on it. That's going to explain the most. That's going to tell you the most about your candidate.
Yeah,
who are they taking money
campaign
from?
Contributions and endorsements are 2 of the biggest things that you need to look for when it comes to a candidate. Essentially, what Amy was saying is follow the money.
And also take a look at polls. See how people are polling. And some of the local stuff, especially if it's a more rural community, they don't really have a lot of polling because it's people that have just been in the same position for many, many years. Nobody challenges them. So that leads us to sorting it all out. So we have all this information now. You've got your report card done. Let's say that we've got your report card now, and you need to ask yourself these final questions, which is, which candidate's view on the issues do you agree with the most? Which, if you did your scorecard, you should have a candidate that's either got a grade, whether a number grade or some sort of letter grade on it. And one of the things in here was who ran the fairest campaign? Who did it? One of the things I really hate is a candidate who just gets on a media channel and they don't talk about any policy. They just talk about how they disagree with other people's policy.
I'm for good
this.
things. I'm against bad things.
Yeah, but you're not really going into.
And they don't get past that.
Yeah, and you have no policy to back it up. These are the issues. This is how we're going to solve them.
Yes, and I think what we mean by fair, at least in my head, what I think about when they mean fair is, what kind of campaign are they running? And again, I think that leads us back to follow the money. Because if we're not aware of who these people are taking donations from, they are then beholden to their donors and not to the people for whom they are supposed to be beholden to.
Yeah. So, one thing you want to look at is, does somebody have many small contributions or, just big business contributions? Do they have PACs behind them? But that's not quite as much of an issue when it comes to local elections. You'll see businesses.
Oh, I don't know about that.
Well, you'll see businesses, but you're not going to see you're not going to see the power of PACs and super PACs behind a
I'm not talking about super PACs. I'm talking about these local people that line their pockets with local taxpayer monies. It's a real thing. Definitely follow the money. Look at who these people are taking money from, first of all. Because it's expensive to run a campaign. And these people are making promises in order to get that campaign money.
Yeah. Well, yeah, of course. So you also want to look at...
I'm going to go through a big thing right here, which I think is seeing through some distortion techniques. Yeah.
Oh yeah, there are ways that they distort that. Candidates will distort what they're saying. And one of the big things is a candidate will demonstrate knowledge on an issue, as in they will demonstrate that they are aware of it, but they don't really give you any plan on how to resolve the issue. It's, we know that the house is on fire, but we're just really not sure what to do at this point. So these are some common distortion techniques that candidates can use to try and, I guess, skew what they're saying. And this is just, honestly, it's a way to just cut through the BS on a candidate. And it comes in handy during debates. It comes in handy with ads because it's going to work as a red flag system for what you're not looking for in a candidate. One of them is name calling, and appeals to prejudice.
Yes. And I think we can all agree on what name calling and prejudice is. And if you want to have a conversation about what that is, I think you can have that on another channel because this isn't is. I think we can all agree on what name calling and prejudice is. Another common distortion technique by these individuals, used by these individuals, is rumor mongering.
Oh, so and so is this, so and so is that.
Yeah.
Most of us can usually see through that. A big one for me is passing the blame. It's not, it's somebody's fault, and we're going to get down to whose fault it is, but no one will actually be held accountable for anything in the end.
And an example of that would be, everyone says my opponent is a crook, but I have no personal knowledge of any wrongdoing.
Yeah, and there's evading real issues, and that's a good way that's a good way to show people what they stand for if you're able to debate them or if you're able to get questions into a debate. Coming up in our next episode, we'll be talking about engagement, which is how to get involved in your town halls and town councils. So if you're not going to be running, but you still want to go to a town council meeting, we're going to be guiding you through how they work, what they entail, but most importantly, how you can engage in a town hall system. So if you want to keep sticking with us with the Praxis channel, we're going to be going through that. But by doing this report card, you can actually take the candidates that you have now and make a report card for them. See which ones are close to your issues, which ones are furthest away from your issues. And then we're going to prepare you for that town hall. But going back to the distortion techniques, one of the big ones here is catchwords. There are phrases such as law and order, or the big one is un-American. That's not American if you're not patriotic enough, you're not American enough. As if that's what it's important. But it's just looking for, what it's trying to do is trigger a knee-jerk reaction in you. Which all you have to do is remain calm and cool-headed. But you're going to see things like this in debates, and you're going to see things like this in speeches. So if you get a chance to speak at one of these things, I would strongly suggest doing so. So let's see, we got another one coming up here. Guilt by association. These are statements such as, we all know candidate whoever is backed by big money interest. But that was the one that stood out for me, just coming from where our research came from. Because it's funded by somebody with, of course, big money interest. It's the Ford Foundation.
What's funny? I was just reading that.
If you actually read through
guilt by association. So that's one of the common.
That's a way that they're trying to distort it, but it's actually a thing you do need to look at.
It is a common misconception technique. But as you read through it, and I'm gonna read this again for you guys that didn't hear it. These are statements such as, "We all know candidate B is backed by big money interest," end quote. That attack candidates because of their support rather than because of their stance on issues. No. I see what you're trying to do. So that attack is a valid attack, especially if the funding that is coming from special interest groups are are an issue here, right?
Yeah. Yeah, they were totally. Yeah, totally.
Those are two different issues.
This isn't. No. If you think about this, this is actually a common distortion technique.
Yes,
is what they're actually trying to do with the research. So you just got to be able to spot stuff like this.
Clever. So
yeah, we saw what you were doing there.
And not to mention, those are two totally different issues. I mean, if you want to talk about the issue, the stands on the issues, or policy, or whatever you want to talk about, we can talk about that. But let's not pretend like funding is not an issue, or big money funding is not an issue, right?
Yes.
So, good try, Ford Foundation.
Yeah, nice try, Ford Foundation, but we saw right through that one.
All right, so the next one they have here is catchwords. These are phrases such as, we already went through Law and Order, and Un-American, and or Make America Great Again. We all know that one. Another one is passing the blame. There are instances in which a candidate denies responsibility for an action or blames an opponent for things over which he or she had no control. Doesn't really give any examples for that, but that's okay. We have plenty of examples of that in this day and age.
Now, the next one is another big business trick that they came up with, which they're going to try and define what promising the sky is.
Yes, promising the sky. Quote, these are unrealistic promises that no one elected official could fulfill. They do not give any specific...
Now, some things you do have to view it with a big fat grain of salt, like build a wall.
We're going to build a wall.
We're going to build a wall and Mexico's going to pay for it.
Like, that's an obvious...
Yeah, that's obviously...
Like, that's promising a wall. That's not promising a sky. That's literally promising a wall. However, things like the ability to have Medicare for all people within the United States, affordable health care for people within the United States, I think is attainable. That is not promising the sky, especially when you think about the fact that many of these, well, specifically this policy that we're talking about, Medicare for all, is polling at like 70% throughout the country. So... you tell me who's promising the sky there. Ford. Anyway.
And the last one is evading the real issues.
Yes. Which I think we were just talking about that.
Yeah, that is evading the real issues.
So, these include instances in which the candidate may avoid answering direct questions, offer only vague solutions, or talk about the benefits of proposed programs, but never get specific about possible problems or costs. Yeah, and again, this can be really sneaky. Because they use this tactic. Well, I think both sides use this tactic. When it benefits them, right?
Yeah, it's the benefit of possible. It's weighing the pros and cons pretty much. So. Yeah, that was the end of it. That was all the major ones, I think.
Yes. So again, this is just an outline. Comment. Tell us what you think. Give us your opinions on what.
What do you think about this piece of paper that we found this research on? Pretty much.
Yes.
And. I felt like this episode felt very technical, just because this is the technical part about it, because we are talking about research, and if you've ever done a research project, you have to be technical about it. You cannot just free spin nonsense into the atmosphere, pretty much. So now we can get to a more lighthearted side of it, which was... I loved finding little, anti-worker stuff in research like this. It's incredible the kind of stuff that you see.
Yeah, it's all down to to language. You have to look at but read.
Oh, it's definitely language manipulation.
Every word that's being put on the paper. And like I said, this isn't bad.
It's not totally bad information.
However, the way that it's not all of it. Some of the words that are just used, you can tell that a billionaire foundation
wrote this
this, is what I'm
research.
saying.
This was funded by a billionaire. I mean, you could totally tell
Which
that.
again isn't bad. We're
But that's
using
okay,
the
'cause,
resources
yeah,
that
we're
are given
going
to us.
Yeah, so we're going to interpret this the new way, and you'll have to excuse us because we're just too, like most of y'all, we are just two working class people. So we don't have like a studio set up. So
Yes,
this is
we don't
actually...
have we don't have billions of dollars to lay down an outline
Yeah, for real.
to help you guys.
And we don't have billions of dollars, but hey, we are going to be upgrading our system. And one of the things that we have talked about doing is actually keeping, because I mean, some of the people in our group, they know who we are, but some of y'all don't. And I think for just the sake of safety, maybe keep ourselves digitized.
I say we just grow beards out.
Easy for you to say. You can grow a beard out. I can't. I can put a fake beard on.
We'll put a fake Mark's beard on you. How about that?
But yes, this is the part where we were. So what did you think about going through this research with us? Because we sat down and we talked about this before we even.
Amy and I read this like a week ago, and we were just sitting here like, what? Like, we were even debating like even using it for the episode, but like in the end, I think we decided it would be good to see like on a side note, because this kind of reminds me all of a sudden, like if you guys ever get a chance to look up a book or read a book by Ananda Girat Harada, it's called what the name of the book? Anyway, I'll post I'll post like a comment
We'll put
or something
on
the book.
Yeah.
But the author is Anand Girat Harada, and it's essentially talking about how the billionaires are not going to help us. I know. I realize I'm very animated, and I keep shaking the table.
You're shaking the camera.
But yeah, I'll let you guys know what the book is. If you get a chance to get it, read it, buy it.
I bet it's in that leftist library.
I don't know. It's a fairly recent book, but we'll check.
Fairly recent stuff. Go through the leftist,
talking about like
the
last year,
leftist. Yeah, they probably have
or
it
even
too.
this year. I think. I'm sorry.
The leftist library. If not, your local library. Usually they have access to all of that.
But anyway, thank you guys for joining us.
Yeah, it's been great talking to y'all. Like I said, I apologize for it being so technical. This is just the technical part of it.
And sorry we were a little late this second episode, but
dude, like I said, we're two working class people. I mean, we got. I have to go to work, and we have to find time to do.
But anyway, we appreciate you guys sticking with us and being here, and hopefully, we will get things done. We will get things done. I mean, we're going through this, and as we get research and find out new things, and actually start to try and put this, I guess I would call it Praxis. Yeah.
Learning how to do this is Praxis, but we have to learn how to implement this.
But
we're all going to be learning together how to implement this into our communities.
But please do comment. Let us know what you think. Hit the like button and subscribe.
Yes, yeah. Like button, subscribe. Y'all have a good one, and thank you for joining us with Praxis Makes Perfect.
Bye.